I've been shooting a traditional bow for about 12 months. It's currently April 2020. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I've been frustrated with quite a few things. But the journey's been an interesting one. I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to come across as an expert, but this video is basically just me talking about a few things that I've either discovered along the way or things that were not obvious to me when I was first starting out, and if I have stumbled across this information earlier, then I may have made better or quicker progress. The first thing I want to touch on is that the weight of your arrow is important, incredibly important. When I first started, I was just shooting arrows that I had with a used bow that I bought. They were full length Eastern Power Flights with a standard insert and 125 grain point. And without knowing it, they were way too light for a 50, 55 pound bow. So my bow was noisy, it wasn't efficient, it wasn't forgiving, and my trajectory was ridiculous. So, as soon as possible in your traditional archery journey, start to understand not just the spine rating of your arrows, but understand the grains per inch of your arrows. Start to understand what people mean when they talk about GPP, or grains per pound of your draw weight. Okay, standard rule of thumb for hunting is somewhere around 10 grains per pound is where you want to be. So if you're shooting a 50 pound bow, kind of like what I am here, an arrow that weighs around 500 grains is pretty good. So when we're talking about the weight of our arrows, you'll need to find some kinds of inserts or heavier inserts than standard to glue in, or look for heavier points. Whatever the case may be, there's a whole bunch of info out there that you can search through, but I do want to make the point, learning how to build arrows that are weighted appropriately for your setup is something you should do as soon as possible. So the second point is to do with your arrows as well. It's to do with arrow tuning. As early as your form allows you to, start thinking about tuning your arrows. I say as early as your form allows because if your form is not clean or consistent, then you are not going to get accurate readings from the spine of your arrows. On that note, don't always rely on the way your arrow lands in the target to give an accurate representation of the spine rating of that arrow. My Reinhardt target is banged up from a couple of years of flogging it with compound bows, and it took me a while to realise that the arrows were not landing in there consistently, so that was a very frustrating road to go down with my tuning process. So look, there are lots of videos out there about how to tune arrows. You don't need me to tell you that, but I will say, in my experience, the best way to get accurate readings of your spine is to get some slow motion video of you shooting your bow from behind, whether you have a camera on a tripod or you've got somebody to help you out and stand behind you with a camera, or even the slow motion settings on smartphones these days. It's fantastic. And yeah, that's a very easy way to see what your arrow flight's doing. Thirdly, your form is more important than your aim. Coming from a compound background and a rifle shooting background, for me, I was just obsessed with shooting tight groups. And it's hard to break out of that mindset. But with the trad bow, the better your form is, the better your groups are going to be. So one of the mistakes I made was I was shooting at 15 or 20 yards a lot earlier than what I needed to be. And I was thinking too much about releasing when my aim felt right. And that led to some problems with my form that I'm still working through. So practice at very close range for a long time and work on getting your form as consistent as you can, and your groups will shrink as a result. The fourth thing is about basic bow skills. Rather than seeing these little skills as roadblocks along the way, like what I did, embrace learning about them. So I'm talking about tying on knock points, making silences out of paracord, tuning your bow with your brace height, even fletching arrows. All those skills are important, and the sooner you start to develop those skills, the better you'll get at them, and you'll have a lot more confidence in your setup. And as all of us know, confidence is everything in traditional archery. The fifth thing is understanding what people mean when they say it's all personal preference. It comes into personal preference when you might like one thing over another thing. But if you don't have any experience with either of those options, then you don't know what your personal preference is, because you've got no idea what you're talking about. So an example is the difference between a longbow and a recurve bow. Okay, I'd ask what the difference would be, and people would just say, oh, you know, it's just about preferring one over the other. And I bought myself a longbow, and then I had a really hard time going between shooting the longbow and the recurve, because I didn't think about the fact that the risers would be so different. So the risers being different means you need to shoot them both differently, and again, it took me a long time to figure that out on my own. Maybe it's obvious to some people, I don't know, but it was very frustrating for me. So it's just something to keep in mind. Experience as much different stuff as you can, so you know what you prefer, as opposed to having people tell you what you might prefer. While we're talking about asking questions, the sixth thing I would like to bring up is you need to take all the advice that you get on social media with a grain of salt. In my experience, everybody who has given me advice has done so with the best intentions. You just need to be aware of the fact that you might get overwhelmed with some of the conflicting advice that people give you. Hey, look at this. He holds the anchor way too long. He doesn't even release as soon as he gets to anchor. That's ridiculous. What are you doing, mate? Jeez. If you happen to get in contact with a couple of people who you trust and they're really good mentors for you, then stick to them like glue, okay? I've done that, and those people know who they are, and I really appreciate the advice that they give me. The last thing is to keep it fun. When you're starting out, you will get frustrated, whether it be because your bow's a little bit heavy, or whether you break some arrows or lose some arrows, or whatever it is. If you're getting frustrated, set the bow down, leave it for a couple of hours, and then come back to it. No amount of pushing through that frustration is going to end positively. I guarantee it. So keep it fun. It's supposed to be fun. Don't take it too seriously. And when I say that, I mean, you know, take the skills seriously and the building of the arrows and your form and all that, but don't take the whole journey so seriously that it is not enjoyable. So, I hope those points made sense to some people. I hope some other newbies out there might have benefited from what I had to say. If you are a newbie and you would like some more advice about some of the points I've touched on, just leave a comment below and I'd be happy to try and make some more videos to address those points, again, keeping in mind that I'm no expert at all. I wouldn't even say I'm good yet. But that's half the fun, is working through those problems. So yeah, until the next video, shoot straight. Have a good one.